This is Gene Adam, former lead singer of Iced Earth. Be sure to subscribe to Podcast in Stone, and don't forget, join our community on social media. Metal lives.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Iced Earth community, welcome to Podcast in Stone, the only podcast 110,000% dedicated to iced motherfucking earth. I am joined, as always, guys, with the incomparable Chuck Hoskins. We got kind of a bit of a different episode. We got. I'm really excited for this episode, guys. We are joined. He has been the artist behind Iced Earth for quite a while now. Please welcome David Newman-Stump. Dave, how you doing, sir?
Better than I deserve.
That's great.
That's where I want to be. So
Yeah.
Thanks for coming to the
taking
show,
the time to spend with us, and for this unique perspective of Iced Earth, not just behind the guitar strings, but behind the paintbrush as well.
Yeah, very welcome. I'm glad to be here. I know it took forever. I know it took forever to get me on here. I'm really busy, and so you guys have been chasing me for a few months now. I think, right? Yeah.
It's all right. It could be worse. It could be trying to get Tim Owens. We've been trying him for like a year, and so it's all good though. We appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you guys.
Can you tell us about your introduction to Jon and your introduction to Iced Earth?
I can actually. My introduction to Jon came from an artist. Whenever my brother and I opened this studio, which was like 17 years ago now, and now I'm in my tattoo studio right now. Whenever we first opened this, we brought an artist with us named Nathan Perry that was working at the studio that we were working at, but he was a young artist. He'd only been tattooing maybe a year. And he told us he didn't feel like his apprenticeship was complete, and he wanted to come with us. And so he did. Well, one of the first things he did is hung an Iced Earth Alive in Athens poster up on the wall back there in his station. And I was like, oh, that's cool. What is that? And he's like, oh, and he went all into it, right? So he was all balls deep in Iced Earth. Like, I loved him. And so that's when I first started hearing him, because he was playing it on the sound system through here. And then one day, Jon Schaffer walked through our front door. And I had no idea who he was, right? Because I just, I didn't know who Jon Schaffer was. And he wanted to get earrings changed, and of course we don't do piercing here. So we're like, oh, we don't do piercing. He looked around because we had all our drawings on the walls back then. It was a little different layout than it is now, but we had all these drawings on the walls that were just hand drawn things. And he's like, did you guys do all these drawings? And we're like, yeah, this is our stuff. Meanwhile, Nathan's jaw's like on the floor, and he's like, like Jon Schaffer's in here and stuff. I don't know who I'm talking to. And so that he approached us, and I think because of originally he approached Nathan because Nathan was all into Iced Earth and he's a metalhead and stuff like that, and he approached him, and then Nathan brought me in on the project because it was big, and it was big for him, and I had been drawing and designing and things like that long, and Nathan's awesome, but I just been doing it longer. And so Nathan pulled me into the project originally, and actually Nathan was the one that was in charge back then. And so what would happen is Nathan would do a design, and then he would hand it to me, and I would polish it. Well, first we met with Jon at his home. It was his studio in Brown County. He had a studio out in Brown County, which is about where I live now. But and it was like in this big log cabin. He had this badass friggin' studio. He had a big eagle head like log cabin. The whole thing was it was like a one giant tree trunk coming out with a big eagle head on it and stuff. It was badass. I go in there, he's got this awesome Star Wars collection everywhere and stuff. He had like a life-size Yoda and all sorts of cool shit. And then he had a bath. One of the bathrooms had like the whole bathtub's just full of instruments, like bizarre instruments from other countries for like doing effects on albums and shit like that, But anyway, we'd set up in his studio, and he starts going over the songs and throwing out ideas, and Nathan and I are both sketching at the same time, and talking and throwing ideas back and forth. And I think that was for the whole like framing Armageddon 10,000 strong, if I'm correct on all that. And so we did all those. Like basically, he would do a pencil sketch, and then I would do a pencil sketch, and then we would swap them. And like I would clean his up, and he might make changes to mine, and then we'd swap them back again. And then he did all of the inking for those because we wanted the inking to be like to have continuity. He and I ink a little differently. And so we wanted it to all have a same continuity throughout the whole work. And that was like how I met Jon, though. Jon actually just randomly walked into my studio one day trying to get earrings done. I'm like, we don't do that shit, you know? And like, so he's like, oh, you want to do some album covers instead? And that's kind of how that worked. I mean, fate fell through my door, I guess.
And there's me at the Demons show on Sunday losing my mind because like he came out and like saw the fans and he knows me by name now. So I walk up to him, he's like, hello, Jason. I'm like, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. That's mad. It's crazy. I do have a random question as you brought up Framing Armageddon, because I've always wondered: is Set riding those dogs or is he running beside those dogs?
Hold on me. Oh, you're back. Say that again, please.
With Framing Armageddon, the artwork. Is Set Abominate riding one of the dogs, or is he running beside those dogs?
Those dogs, he's not riding them. They're coming out the front. They're leading, and so he is not riding those dogs. That was actually originally that particular one was originally that has the hellhounds, the 3 hellhounds, right on the cover. I'm thinking of the right one. That one, that Nathan Perry. That was an original Nathan Perry design. Then I went back through and polished that one in particular. It was like and then with the hourglass, I don't know if you remember the hourglass from that. It had like the city born into Set. That was one of my designs that then Nathan polished. And so that's how we worked as a team on those in particular. And then I think that stuff was colored by Philippe. Philippe's the one who did the coloring on those. We did the concept, the penciling, and the inking. And then we scanned those in and sent them to Philippe.
Now
I think we might have sent them to Jon, and Jon sent them to Philippe. I don't remember. It's been a while ago.
Now, Jon commonly calls you Tatoo Dave. Is that because he met you in a tattoo? That's your day job. He's a tattooist.
Yeah.
Is that basically right? Because I assumed that you were his tattoo guy. Like, do you?
I am.
You are. Oh, okay,
tattoo,
cool.
Yeah,
I am right.
Yes, both. After we started doing the album artwork, I started tattooing him, and I've done, like, he already had some tattoos, so I've kind of polished some of those, but I did his forearm pieces, you know, like the Revolutionary War pieces that are on his forearms and stuff. I did a portrait of his daughter on his ribs. I did his he has a tribute on his lower leg to Iron Maiden, you know, it's got the Killers album down there. And I did that, and then I have so I've done a lot of work on. Jon and I have spent like friggin' dozens of hours in this chair behind me. I'm sitting at my tattoo station, but we've spent hours here together. It's amazing what people confess whenever you're torturing them.
Right.
Now, where you're talking about your partner in the art, or partner in crime, or whatever you want to call him. You mentioned Nathan. Now you said he was the big Iced Earth guy out of you two.
Yes.
Did working with Jon and eventually doing his tattoos and actually knowing, becoming friends with the guy, did you end up going right, I'm going to check this Iced Earth band out and actually go and
yes. Absolutely. And I mean, from the beginning, whenever like I was talking about his studio, I was listening to like rough tracks and stuff, you know, that weren't mastered yet or anything, and the pieces, and sometimes it didn't even have the lyrics in there yet. He was just trying to give us a mood for the song and kind of describing what it was. And so, of course, and then after meeting Jon and I are like, we get along really well. And so, and I'm probably like, Iced Earth is on our playlist in the studio every day. We have we use like Pandora or whatever. And so it pops through every day. Iced Earth plays in the studio. So yeah, I've become quite enamored with his music, and I think he's a badass. So like when you understand that he's basically he writes most of the music himself, and then gets he allows them some creative freedom, but it's Jon's baby. It's all Jon's baby, you know. So
right.
I've always said, man, hardest working man in metal, hands down.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would absolutely agree that he is the hardest working man in metal. But, I don't know for sure, but I know he works 16 hours a day in his studio, and I don't know, I hear about a lot of other musicians just, getting drunk on the tour bus. You know what I mean? And Jon's always working.
Now,
Not that he hasn't done that, but he's always working.
Now, I want you to kind of take us through a little bit of this process here. This artwork for the Purgatory EP is one of my favorites of yours. Now,
Thanks.
when Jon contacts you and he says, okay, I'm doing this Purgatory EP, does he say, come up with something, or does he say, I want a haunted house on the front? Do you have to listen to the songs? Can you kind of tell us a little bit about how that works out for you?
So yes, I can. Okay, so sorry. I'm going to hold on one second, guys. I want to close this door right here. My brother's here, and somebody's talking to him in the lobby, and it's just a little distracting. So give me one shake. Sorry about that. Hold on. I'll be right back. Sorry about that, guys.
It's cool, man.
We appreciate your time.
Nice
All right,
shirt.
there we go.
Nice shirt, by the way.
Oh, thanks. This is like one of my favorite.
I've got that
I don't know
shirt.
if you see. You've got this one, right?
Yeah.
I think you can only get it in Europe, right?
Yeah,
you can't get this one in the States.
EMP. That's where the company I bought it from. Apparently, I think it is an exclusive from EMP.co.uk or wherever it is. Yeah.
So I have. I'm in Columbus, Indiana, and this is the home of Cummins Diesel, which is the head offices for Cummins for all over the world, right? Because of that, we have tons of people that are brought in here. And my brother's been tattooing this woman in Cara, and she's from England. And so whenever she was over there, she got me this shirt while she was over there. So that's how I ended up with this. But anyway,
Nice.
What were we talking about? You asked me about the Purgatory and how that process goes, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that could even be for Incorruptible. Like, do you have to hear the songs first? Does he give you the titles?
I don't
give
always
you
have to hear the songs first. Usually what happens is he'll come into the studio. So it's a little different. Like when we started way back in the day with Nathan and stuff, the process, like I was unfamiliar with the process as well. Now, after all these years, I've got it honed in pretty well with Jon and I, and we trust, like he trusts me now as well. So he doesn't give me nearly as much guidance now as he once did. But I don't have to throw out a whole bunch of sketches for him or anything anymore. It's pretty much like he gives me an idea, and it's like what we do is he'll come in for a consultation, and the last time I think we did, which was for the Demons and Wizards one, and I think it was 45 minutes is all we spent, and I spit out all those drawings from about a 45-minute meeting. But the process goes like this. He comes in and he has his list of the titles of the songs, what they're basically about. He doesn't even always have, because it's such a long process to create an album like this. He doesn't even have all the lyrics written sometimes. He just has a general idea of what the song is about. He doesn't even necessarily have all the parts of the songs put together when I start doing artwork. So he comes in and he talks about, this is what this song is about. This is kind of the feeling that it has. When it came to Purgatory, and this is because with Incorruptible, we had all the different songs. Like a project like that is a lot different to set up than one that's just the front and back cover. You know what I mean? Because the front and back, that's like, it's like what we did with Purgatory. We decided one image was probably the way to go. Originally, Jon was thinking different images maybe on the front and back, but I was like, well, we can do it in one single image so that when you fold it out, and he liked he's like, oh yeah, and we both jived on that idea. But he'll come in, he's like, this is what it's about. I was thinking, and with him, he was like, I was thinking a haunted house. And somehow these figures for the songs and we just kind of powwow on it and what's going to be the best direction. And sometimes we both throw out ideas that the other's like nixes. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, that sounds awesome. Jon, it sounds awesome in your head, but I know when it comes to pen to paper that concept just won't carry over as well, and then, and some things is like, no, I don't want that. And so it usually anymore with we can do, I think maybe Incorruptible took maybe 2 hours to kind of discuss all of those. And what I do is I'll take notes, and I'll also go out online as we're talking, and I will pull stuff from Google Images. And I'm like, so when you're talking about something like this, out of these, and so I'll have us pull maybe like 15 images that are different concept things per each song, so that I can know and dial in like where his head's at, and then I don't have to do a lot of redrawing. So I kind of stand on the shoulder of the genius in a way. I get online, and as we're talking, I'm like, okay, hold on, I'm going to pull up a whole bunch of stuff that is like what you're describing, and I'll pull up 100 different images, and we'll look through them. And he's like, oh, I like this about this, and I like this about that, and I like this about this image, and this over here is cool, and oh, I like the way that guy looks, and we'll go through all that, and then I'm like, okay, and I'll snag those images, and then make a few notes on them and store them for later, so that when I come to designing that, I can pull all those images back up and be refreshed on our conversation along with my notes, and that's how I approach the image then. And then I only have to do usually one version of it, whereas sending like sketches back and forth and stuff, that was how we were originally doing it, and it's a lot more cumbersome. And when you're sending like half images to somebody, they don't always know the direction that you're trying to take it. So I found that this is a much better, more streamlined way to handle it. And he gets more out of me. It's like, and one of the things, if you take an artist and you put him in one direction, and then you're like, oh, now that you've spent half the time drawing that, and you send them in another direction, it starts to grind them down, and it cuts their time. You only have all these things have time constraints. So The more time you go back and forth on an image, the less time you have to spend on the overall project. You're spending on this one little facet. And I found that we got to be really, because there is timelines on all this, you got to, the time is precious. So that's kind of the process.
Taking a back seat from the Iced Earth stuff just a little bit, I want to ask you the age-old question. You may have a cool answer, you might have no answer, but because I do art as well, but my art is nowhere near to the level of yours. Nowhere near. Like the level of detail in your work is unreal, man. Like
thank you.
Those sketches.
Lots of practice.
The sketches that Chuck showed the group, where you've got kind of like early sketches of the Incorruptible artwork and stuff like that. I'm just like, man, this is, there's people saying this is why you're his guy, because you're legit, man. But my question is, how do you translate what's in your brain to paper so effectively and with such eye for detail? Because that's what I struggle with the most with artwork.
Okay, lots and lots of practice for one. And I mean lots. My parents say I've been drawing since I was 2 years old. And when I was 6, I set myself to becoming I was looking through some of my mother's artist magazines, because she's an artist. And she didn't get to do it professionally until later on in life. But she's an artist. And so I was looking through some of her art magazines when I was 6. And I had this epiphany. I was like, wait a minute. Everybody in this magazine, the cover art, even all the advertisements, was created by some artist, which means there's a lot of different people that have this upper echelon of abilities that said, if I practice enough, I can do this too. And so by the time I was in junior high, I was doing commissioned artwork, and I got a free ride to college, which I dropped out of on art to pursue tattooing. So it's a lot of practice, studying other artists a lot. And then you learn that for me, I treat drawing more like sculpture. If you want to get to that fine detail, you got to treat it more like sculpture. And then it's all a matter of patience. If you want to be a great artist, there's what I believe is 2 keys to being a great artist: patience and observation. The patience that it takes to truly look at something, break it into its component parts, and then the patience that it takes to put it back together in new and unusual ways. And so I take inspiration from many, many different artists. I take inspiration from photographs. I take inspiration from movies, ideas, books, and you form those pictures in your scene. And a lot of things in my head are like, when you're looking at it in your head, it's like a movie, right? Because it's moving, and you can look around it, so it gets amorphous. So you got to get good at taking snapshots with your brain. It's like I'll put whenever I'm like, for example, the Viking, it was the Heathen Army, right? The Heathen Army illustration where the guy's getting his head lopped off, right? And there's all that blood spraying. There's all that blood spraying out, right? So in my mind, I just imagined that, and I imagined this Viking-like character just swinging with full force and like slicing this dude's head off in that spray of blood, and I freeze frame it at framed it at what I thought in my mind was the most, epic moment. And then I sketched it very loosely. Hey, that's it right there. That's the one. And you can see it's that full arc. I'm like, that's where you want it. His head's gone. He's got this full range of motion, and that arc of blood shows that range of motion all the way through it. And so it's really like. Also, there was I got a lot better after I read a book by a guy named Bern Hogarth, and it's called Dynamic Figure Drawing. When it comes to these things, I've drawn for life, but when it comes to the figures drawings and getting action quickly, there's this great book. He's a resource. He's a professor. He's an art professor of figure drawing and stuff, but his name's Bern Hogarth, and he's a badass, and he has this very comprehensive system for almost like Renaissance idealism, and but it makes it very dynamic. So that, along with studying comic books, along with studying, there's just so many references and artists that I've set. Frank Frazetta, I'm a huge fan of Frank Frazetta. And so I've studied all these artists for all that time, and I'm kind of like a mishmash of them all because I would literally study them. And so that's what I can say about being able to get it on paper and treat it like sculpture. With sculpture, you don't like draw, you don't build a hand and then build an arm and then build a head and then build a body. You basically build a rough form, and then you start detailing, like you get that to where, and then you'll build musculature, right? And then you'll get your muscular down, and then you'll actually put clothing on that, and then you know what I mean? And so you really, you build it rather than try to draw it from the beginning. And so that's the sketch process where you're at, you know, that crappy stuff they always show in the art books where you have to draw those shapes and stuff, and you're like, I don't have to draw those shapes. I want to skip past that stuff. Really, you need to draw the shapes. And that's what allows you to do that. And then you take the patience that it takes to just build that in layers to where it's like with the Incorruptible, with Set on the big pentacle, you know, I got his body form down, and then I start, like, you put the main lines of the bandages on there, and then each individual bandage has its own striations in it as well. And then you start thinking about, like, which direction the lighting is coming from. Like, you build a form, and once your form is built, you're like, okay, where's my light coming from? And once you understand where your light's coming from, you start to understand, like, light moves across forms like water. So if light is falling from right above, it would be like anything that was getting wet will have light on it. Anything that would be dry as the water was falling will be dark, right? And so you can kind of think about it, but it radiates out from that source in 3 dimensions, right? So a light, like water only travels in one direction, but light travels in 3 dimensions from like a sphere in a way. And so it has a sphere of influence. So you got to keep that in mind with how it bends around corners and stuff. But that's kind of how I conceive of those things. You first do form, then you figure out the direction of your light, and then you build the structure of it. And the last thing you do is, like, if you were doing a tree, for example, you first worry about the shape of that tree as a whole, and then you worry about the texture of the bark afterwards. And so you build it from the loosest to the tightest details. So did that answer? Is that close enough?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to, like, we're gonna have to hook up on Facebook or something. I've got to send you some of my drawings, and you can
awesome. I'd love to see them.
You can give me like a lecture of what I can do better and stuff. Because I've got 2 strengths, right? This is my 2 strengths. If you give me a picture of Set, I can look at that picture, I can draw it. It won't be like spot on exactly the same, but I can draw it and it'll look half decent, right?
Have you drawn any that I've drawn? Have you drawn any, like redrawn any that I've created?
No, sorry.
Okay, I didn't know. I wanted to see them. I was like, I want to see that shit.
And like you saying about the physical form, right? The human form, so to speak. I'm awful at, like, making the proportions of a person correct. That's why I find that if someone goes to me, draw like the most hideously monstrous thing you can draw, because a monster is unfamiliar, isn't it? So
yes,
the more
they can't tell you it's wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So the more unfamiliar something is, I can make it as proportions doesn't matter, because you go, well, it's meant to be like that. It's what's in my brain. So that's where I'm kind of strength. If you said
there's
to me,
all sorts of formulas for that. The usual human body is 7 heads tall, sometimes 8 if they're a little taller. And there's all these, like, formulas for that. Like, there's, for example, on clothing and stuff, there's 7 different kinds of folds and drapes. There's only 7, right? So if you want to do anybody's clothing of any material, there's really only 7 different kinds of folds and drapes. But you only really need 3 of them. because if you know 3 different folds and drapes, you can kind of make them go in different combinations and fool people into thinking that this looks like organic cloth. And really, you don't even need to know that. All you really need to know is that cloth travels along tension points. So wherever you'll have tension is where the cloth will radiate out from. And so once you understand that, it starts to become easier.
See, like you probably could see there. I got a Dragon Ball poster.
I can't see it. I got my screen split in half, so I can't see it.
Well, my art is highly inspired by like Akira Toriyama and the Dragon Ball anime kind of art style.
Yeah.
So my clothing is kind of like that, where it has a lot of creases and a lot of like folds and stuff. But then when I try to do it, it looks like the guy definitely needs to iron some clothes when I do it, because I do too much. I go overkill.
Little extra wrinkles in there. Yeah, all you have to do is think about the form and think about where tension is at. Like if something's resting across the shoulders, right? That's going to create tension on that cloth, and that cloth will radiate out from that point of tension with gravity. Depending, if there's wind, it does it a little different, but it's really all the same. It really is.
Now, Dave, I have a question about Incorruptible. When you guys are going through your meeting about the art and stuff, did Jon know right away that he wanted Set being crucified on the cover, or was that open to? Okay,
that was one of the things, because that album for him was like the death of Set, right? So he knew that he wanted to try to like how he would be crucified and stuff. That was what that was about. And so yes, he did. That's what I sent you a sketch, and you can see one where it was from the front, right? And
yes,
that was my
awesome.
original, like that was my first one that I showed him. I was like, something like this, you know? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, and really in the end, I was like, I think it'll look more dynamic if we 3/4 this thing, have it at a 3/4, because it'll give more depth to the cover because the first one was just so like straight on, you know, and it was like kind of flat. But this one was more at a 3/4 angle. And thank you. And it shows like, it just gives us a more sense of depth. And it allowed for the pinnacle to look thick and heavier and to make him look like more constrained. But as obviously his expression in that is supposed to be him like, you can't fuck with me. You know, you think you have it, but you can't fuck with me. Like, that's what he's like, yeah, right, you got me up here, but what the fuck are you going to do? And that was really what that conversation was about. Yeah. What are you going to fucking do?
I asked that because one of my favorite pictures is a back picture. I thought that could have easily been the album cover as well.
That's actually the aftermath of him being on that pinnacle. Like, that's actually what that's supposed to represent, is that Set is on the pinnacle and he doesn't think they can touch him. And it actually ends up like he's like erupting from inside because they've like did this incantation that they've done. All those druids that are gathered around have done this incantation, which causes basically Set to explode from inside. And that's what that is. That's him kind of like melting down, and there's like lava inside of him and stuff, as all this evil and shit's just pouring out of him. So
now before, I'll let you have this next, Jason. Before Incorruptible, it was supposed to be called the Judas Goat. Was there any artwork for that at all?
There was never any artwork that I created for Judas Goat. There was some that was discussed, but by the time it actually came around to putting pencil to paper, that had changed. We knew, from my understanding, if I remember correctly, by that point it was no longer going to be Judas Goat. It was going to be Incorruptible. Jon, I think, had a shift, like between the Judas Goat and between Incorruptible. Jon had a little bit of a shift in his thinking on all that stuff, and so he came back to it, and he wanted a different title, and he wanted to have a different theme.
Okay.
So,
you said that the whole idea of the Set being crucified was the death of Set.
Yes.
Well, that's the first I've heard behind the story behind that cover. So, with that being said, I don't know if you know any more of this. Does that mean like the Set character is done? We won't see him on Iced Earth covers.
I highly doubt. I have my doubts that Set can actually be fully killed. You know what I mean? He's kind of like Jason Voorhees. I have a feeling that he's just gonna, you can bury him in the ground, but
Well,
he's going to come back up out.
He can manipulate time and space, so
Yes.
how can you kill that?
I know. It's like trying to kill the devil. You might be able to send him back somewhere, but eventually he's going to come back through. I don't really know, but that was the idea behind that whole concept. There was that it was the death of Set. So. Because Set, I think, was the corruption, right? Like in the story, Set's the corruption. He's like going through time, corrupting things and everything.
That makes sense.
And so this was supposedly the end of that corruption and stuff.
This is really eye-opening. Like, I don't think Jon's ever really kind of went in depth like this about stuff like this. This is why it's cool getting you on, man, because you're kind of.
I've never heard this either.
You're giving us this kind of like more kind of in-depth kind of story, which is cool. I have a random. Speaking of Set Abominate, has Jon ever come to you with an idea for a cover that doesn't include Set? Because Set's been on album covers for a very long time. With obviously the first 3 albums he wasn't, plus obviously Spawn was on the 4th album, and the only album he hasn't been on since then was Glorious Burden, which happens to be my favourite album cover. Spoilers for that episode. Has Jon ever come to you and been like, I've got this idea for an album for a piece of art? It could be anything. It could be a back cover, whatever, for Iced Earth, and it not include Set in terms of front covers. I know you've done front song pieces and stuff.
Not for Iced Earth. He hasn't. Of course, he approached me about the Demons and Wizards stuff, and he approached me about the Purgatory stuff. So on those, absolutely. But on the Iced Earth, I think it's always. If we had conversations of it not being Set, they were very brief, and you know what I mean. I mean, he's Set Abominate. Why not have him on the cover?
Speaking about Set, right? And you say, oh, he can't be not on the cover. Let's talk about Enter the Realm and your reimagining of that cover, because now that's a fucking piece of art, my friend.
Thank you. I can't take all the credit for that. Roy Young did the coloring on that, and he colors all the stuff that I've been doing, Incorruptible and afterwards. So, and we kind of make a dynamic duo on that. I think, like, I don't color the way he colors, and he doesn't draw the way I draw. And when we get together, we come up with stuff like that. It was also that particular cover, because it was all we had to do for that project. Our time could be spent all on one image, and I think that it went through probably more of a polishing, and I spent more on that particular one image than I've spent on any other Iced Earth image, is on that one particular image. I had to go back and look. Thanks. I'd have to go back and look on my iPad, because it keeps track of time on imagery and stuff like that. But like the chest alone took me like probably 5 hours to do in that piece, just that chest. And it was done as a separate piece of artwork that was then pulled in and added to that. I had to design that room, and even the friggin' couch took for fucking ever on that thing. I'm like sitting here like putting buttons on a couch. Here you go, Jon. I'm putting buttons on your couch for you. But for me, it's like they had this like, and if you zoom up on the clock, it has his initials on the clock in there, and you'll see like Order of the Rose stuff like on the clock itself. There's like the Order of the Rose symbols are all carved into it.
I was getting to my point with Set. He's in the crown, in the reflection of the crown.
I put Set up in the crown on that one. Yes,
I tell you what.
Yeah, he had to be there, right? Come on. He was waiting. He's like in the future there, waiting to be there.
I tell you what though, when we revealed the Purgatory front cover and the window, and the Skeleton Kings in the window.
Yes.
People lost their shit. Like, I never saw that. Oh my god. And it's really cool, because like I was talking to Bill Owen, he was like, well, you know, obviously by the time they got to Enter the Realm, and they went from Purgatory to Iced Earth, they changed the name. Like the whole idea for Enter the Realm was that was meant to be happening in one room in the haunted house. That was the whole idea, apparently. Jon's got crazy ideas, man. Like he connects all these things together into one kind of like continuity that kind of when you put it all together, it just makes sense. It's crazy.
Absolutely. Well, and I tend to, in these images, I tend to hide quite a few Easter eggs. I do it like I'll do some research about the album. Like I did a little bit of research about Enter the Realm, and so there's some Easter eggs in there, just like there were Easter eggs in the Incorruptible stuff. Like when you see the characters and they might have like numbers or something, like Roman numerals on the, like I think on the black flag, you'll see, if I remember right, he has a sash that has like Roman numerals on it. Those numerals mean things. So I leave Easter eggs in all of this stuff for the super fans, really. And I did the same thing on Demons and Wizards, like even down to the demon is wearing a rat skull. It's an actual rat skull necklace on the cover of the last Demons and Wizards, the re-release that came out. And that rat skull is because John's the year of the rat. And so there's all sorts of things like that are hidden in these images, that if you want to look and you look up and you see symbols or something, like those aren't just random magic symbols that I made up. They mean stuff. I do a lot of research for those particular things.
I need to go
That's
through
awesome.
all my vinyls now. all the stuff that you've done.
Speaking of vinyls, a lot of these newer ones have etchings on the vinyls. Do you have copies of those yourself? Because those are amazing.
Yeah, I have some, whatever John brings me as swag. I have one that but a lot of times I got to be honest, I will listen to the CDs, but I won't open my vinyls. I like to keep them. Okay. You know what I mean? I don't always open them. I know what all the artwork looks like anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
yeah.
but I have I did open the Incorruptible one so I could see that vinyl etching that's on there. I think I sent you the original of that. That was on the Incorruptible, the marker, because that's done with marker. I just did it with like magic marker. I sketched it out and then did it with magic marker. Is what I did the etching that was on the Incorruptible vinyl. I think that was on there. I'm pretty sure.
Now we're an Iced Earth podcast, but we also talk about different music. Can you tell us musically, tattoo wise, is there one band that like stands out? I mean, my guess would probably be like Maiden, maybe, that gets the most tattoo requests.
Yeah, wow. I'm trying to think who I've probably of bands I have tattooed the most Iron Maiden stuff, but John's got 2 huge Iron Maiden tattoos that I've done on him, so that alone would do it. A lot of times what happens is and I book so far in advance that I don't do small tattoos. I do like mostly big, intricate stuff. Right now, my first available appointment for tattooing is in March. No, it's in April of 2020. And so Jesus. Because of that, people that want like band logos or things like that, because there was a lot of people that would get was it the Metallica logo or whatever that they had? There was a lot of, but I don't do those because nobody wants to wait 8 friggin' months to get that tattoo.
Right.
To be tattooed by me, they have to be very patient and they have to want something if they want me to do something awesome, I don't want to fucking do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be like, I want people to have their minds blown when they look at what I'm doing. And so I don't do a lot of small things. So like John has, as far as band tattoos, I don't know that I've done the Iced Earth. I've probably maybe done more Iced Earth tattoos, honestly, than I've done Iron Maiden, simply because I've done this entire sleeve that I've been working on, as well as I've done Iced Earth stuff on John's sleeve. And I haven't done a ton of like band music tattoos. Okay. I've done some Pink Floyd stuff, but it's all been a while ago. It's been, I've been tattooing that whole sleeve on Ryan Wallace, that Iced Earth sleeve, and it's pretty badass. It's fun. I even drew him an original set that's on the inside of his arm that isn't on any albums or anything like that. I just drew him his own original. He gets his own set from me. His head is up in his armpit, so I made him suffer for it. But his head starts up in his armpit, and then it goes all the way down like his arm to almost his wrist, because Seth's like pointing, and then his elbow, like Seth's elbow bends with his elbow. So if his arm is up like this, Seth's arm is bent at the elbow, and he's got like lightning coming out of his fingertip. You know what I mean? It goes the rest of the wrist and stuff. And so he's got kind of a set on the inside of his arm that can move his arm with him, and it's fun. It's a fun piece.
I do have my own original set drawing that I can send.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
I would love to see this.
I called it the Demon King set.
Okay.
So basically, it's what I consider to be Set's completed his mission, humanity's dead, and he takes his rightful place in hell on the throne. He's a demon king. He's done his job.
That's awesome.
That's like my idea for that.
Yeah, I look forward to checking that.
I also just come up with an idea because I was thinking about artwork earlier, because I knew we was going to talk to you today, and I thought, right, so you got Dark Saga, so it's a Spawn album. I was like, how come nobody's ever thought about Set Abominate gaining the Spawn power? Can you imagine how badass he would look? He would look awesome.
Well, I will tell you that Jon has considered Set Abominate having many different powers, and because he can take different forms and traverse time and space, and that's kind of like on the Incorruptible, that's why you see kind of Set as different characters. Like, he is that Black Flag character, and on that one I had him looking a little bit more snake-like on that, and then other times he looks a little bit more mummy-like, but he does have different powers. And I think Jon was really enamored of Spawn anyway. You know what I mean? And this freaking Todd McFarlane has some badass shit coming out there.
Now, Jon has mentioned kind of like after retirement doing more of a graphic novel or book or something like that. Have you guys discussed? I mean, no spoilers, of course. Have you guys discussed anything like that? We have
discussed it. It has been discussed. It's one of those things that's like we have so much pressing stuff that we've discussed it several times throughout all the other projects we've worked on. And it's like this thing that's out in the distance, like, we'll see on that one. That's all I can say is that it has been discussed, though.
I have a burning question. Are you the guy? Has it already been set that you're the guy for the new Demons album cover?
So I can't answer that yet. I don't want to. I don't like to release things unless Jon's kind of released them and stuff like that. And on this one, we got to talk with Hansi, and sort it all out. But I think it's promising. I'm not going to say yes or no.
Well, Iced Earth fan-wise, I hope you're around for a long time because I really, really enjoy your artwork.
Well, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I hope so too. I like working with Jon. Jon and I work well together, and we just get along. You know what I mean? So, then, like I said, Roy, Jon, and I all get along really well. Roy's a metal singer, and he writes metal songs as well, and he's a singer and stuff, as well as doing the coloring. Like, when you talk about Todd McFarlane, actually, Roy, the guy that colors his stuff, colored Spawn #1. And so that's where, that's where Jon originally met Roy from. Jon's the one who hooked Roy and I up, because whenever he had Todd McFarlane do the Dark Saga, that's when he, I think, met Roy, if I'm to understand the history right. And then whenever it came back to me doing the Incorruptible stuff, that's when Jon introduced me to Roy. And Roy and I just, like, hit it off. Like, we're like two brothers from another mother artistically. And I've never met an artist quite like Roy, who, like, we both kind of put our egos to the side. Like, whenever you're an artist, it's like your art's your baby, and nobody wants to be told their baby's ugly or needs work. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to be told, hey, man, that baby looks like fucking fucked up in the face. You need to fix that nose. But with Roy and I, we can both take that. You know what I mean? Because it's about the best for the project. And we know that it's not just about the best for this project. It's the best for our portfolio overall and all the work we do with Iced Earth. And that it's not just like about this one-off album. It's not about this one-off picture. It's about the whole scope of what we're going to do with Jon. And we hope it gets better and better, And as we work together, I think it's gotten better and better because Roy and I know each other. And, like, whenever I design these things now, I know what I should leave for Roy to do, and I know what I should be doing. So I can. It actually saves me a lot of time. I don't have to flesh things out as much. I generally do the line, the concept, the line and the shading. And, like, obviously Jon comes in and we talk about concept, and he shoots ideas to me, and then I'm like, oh, let's look at some stuff. And then once he and I are locked in on stuff and we're in agreement, then I will then go to Roy and I'll do my drawings, and then I'll send them to Roy, and Roy will polish these things and then send them back to me for the most part. And then I will polish them again. I'll be like, okay, I love all this. I love this. This is awesome. Let's see this change. Or I was thinking maybe this here, or this energy should be electricity instead of fire. I know you got fire in there and that's badass, but this should be electricity for the lighting or whatever. And he's like, oh yeah, that'll be badass. And I do the same thing. Sometimes I'll send him an image and he'll be like, I love this, but could you do this with this? And I was like, absolutely, let's do it that way. And so we got ourselves into a pretty well-oiled machine, with Jon at the helm. So,
will there ever be a set action figure, you think?
I can only hope, and actually that's something that Jon and Roy and I have discussed. Like, Roy's actually making, and I think this should be releasable. So Demons and Wizards is coming to the U.S. and touring, right? And Roy also sculpts and stuff. Like, he and I both like sculpt and everything as well. And so he is making all of their stage props for the U.S. tour. Roy is. So not only is Roy color in the albums, he's actually going to make the set for.
Are you talking about like the gravestones and stuff like that?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen them. They're at the London show. Yeah, I've seen this.
So the ones at the London show, they aren't carrying those back to the U.S.
Right.
They're leaving them in London, or they're leaving them in Europe, and Roy's making a whole new set of all that stuff, and I don't know if it'll be the same. These will be different though. They're going to be a little extra. They'll actually be a little bit more than what you see. There's going to be a little extra to them, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. You're going to have to see it. But I know, but I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to see it. They're going to be a little different.
American fans get one up on the UK fans once again, do they?
Yeah. And that, I've got to tell you though, that's not often. You guys got the badass shirts. Come on now.
But we didn't get a tour last year. That's what I'm angry about.
Yeah.
Shut up. I have a random question. As you're an artist and stuff, and you do work with Iced Earth. With regards to working with Jon, has that connection kind of presented you with other people wanting you to do artwork for them, different bands?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Because of that exposure, I have worked with like local bands. I've worked with bands out of Maryland. I'm currently working on a project for a band called Arikara out of Florida. And after I finish that, I have to get my butt working on another big project. But like. It has definitely left like there's definitely been exposure for that. I've been getting actually so much that I've had to turn certain projects down because I'm just too hemmed up. I'm like, I will not be able to get to this right now. I really wouldn't be able to do a lot of side art right now until like December. So I got my tattooing booking me up until April, but my side art will be busy up until December probably.
There goes my other question. Damn it. I was gonna ask. My band is looking for like an artist because we've got an album, debut album coming out in November, and we're looking for someone that is more kind of their strength is more monochrome kind of artwork, or black and white kind of style.
Yeah. Yes.
I
would be totally about it. I just for right now. I will be hemmed up on a big project until like November, December, and I gotta say December, just to make sure I have that extra time. And so I would be all about it. I understand you're wanting to release in November, so that one I won't get the opportunity. But I would be all about it. If you ever do something like this again, just be aware that you got to get a hold of me like months in advance, or half a year in advance, so we can. So we can lock you in on my calendar, because once you're locked in, I don't drop anybody for anybody else. It's like you got to get in the queue. So
my bandmates, I'm only in a 3-piece, but my bandmates are kind of like they're trying to find a cheap way to get artwork. I'm just like, man, if you want killer artwork, we've got to put the money up. Like we paid quite a bit for our logo, stuff like that, and they're like, oh, we got this friend who can do it for nothing. I'm just like, why? It could be crap though. I don't know if your friend's good. I don't know.
Well, yeah, if he's gonna do it for nothing, you can have him start it, but find some, what I mean, and then you're not out anything.
Yeah. I don't know.
He might be a badass. You never know. Some people have badass art friends.
With artwork, I just feel that same with tattoos. I haven't got no tattoos because I'm a bit of a wuss. But the three things I have with tattoos, if I'm ever gonna get a tattoo, is hygiene is like number one. You got to go to a place that's fucking clean. Two, the artwork's got to be like next level, the next like fucking dog's bollocks, right? And price is no object with tattoos, in my opinion. If it's gonna cost $1,000, so be it.
Yes, with that attitude, you'll get good tattoos.
Yeah.
And really, tattoos are one of those things that, depending on what it is, it's really hard to judge the time of a tattoo and how long it'll take. Honestly, I make more tattooing than I do doing album artwork, even per hour and stuff like that, just because of what all's involved in it. So,
I know we're getting close to the final end time here. I just have one more question. Time-wise, like Incorruptible, I know is released in June. How soon before the album release date are you getting this information? Are we talking like 6 months, 9 months, or
we're talking to see a lot of times?
How
it's
soon?
About anywhere between 6 and 3 months. 3 months on a really tight crunch. Not before the release, but before he needs it all done. I get about a 6 month lead on this stuff, and sometimes on like certain projects, I might like if it, like the Purgatory and the Enter the Realm, I don't think I got 6 months on those. But he always knows kind of what his stuff's going on 2 years, so he'll hit me up fairly early and be like, "Hey, it's out there in the ether. We'll be needing it." But then he'll hit me up again on that particular project, like 3 months to 6 months beforehand, depending on the size. With Incorruptible, I wanted the 6 month lead because it was such a large project. And he knows how busy I am with tattooing and all the other crap I got going on. But with I think the Purgatory, I don't even know if I had a 3 month lead on that one because it was just really one image. And so that's a lot easier to move through than friggin' 14 images.
Now, I got you can correct me if I'm wrong, but did you do? Because I always forget who done what album cover and etc.
Sometimes I do.
Did you do the Plagues of Babylon artwork?
No, I did not do Plagues of Babylon. That was by a different artist, and I think I think he just wanted a different look for that one. I can't remember. I was busy. I don't know exactly what happened. It might have been that it just didn't work out, or it wasn't the feel that he was looking for what we were doing, or something. You can tell it has a very different look to that particular album.
It's very watercolor, like it's a
it's a painting. I believe that's actually a painting. It is. It's an actual. It's not digital. I believe it's a painting. Of course, it's probably been digitally worked in some way, but it's.
I don't know if you can see this. This is my tribute jacket, but I don't know if you can see.
I can only see the corner of. Yeah, I can see that one right there. I got the Alive in Athens right there.
But I've got. I had an old T-shirt, a Plagues of Babylon T-shirt, which I cut out, and I've made it the backdrop, so it's behind, so you can see. Set is there.
That's awesome.
You can't really
I can't see the left side of it. You'd have to put it in front of your face when you see it, but
send him a picture.
Yeah, you can just send me a picture. I'll check it out later.
Are we connected on Facebook? I can't remember.
We should be. Just add me. If I'm full up, I will get rid of somebody and put you in.
Kick Coleman out. Get out.
Yeah. No. I'm like, sorry, not enough room.
My final question is: do you have a favorite Iced Earth picture that you had nothing to do with, and do you have a favorite one that you were involved with?
The favorite one that I had nothing to do with may be either the Alive in Athens or the I Love the Dark Saga. Todd McFarlane's a badass. You know what I mean? Right. His characters and his figure and his line and all that stuff is just, it's awesome. It's off the charts awesome. And then probably for... I like Plagues of Babylon too, but I that Todd McFarlane pieces are badass. And I know he didn't do, it was a different, who did the Alive in Athens? I think he worked with Todd, but it wasn't Todd.
Was it Travis somebody?
Was it Travis?
I don't know that offhand.
I forget.
Okay, anyway, I like those two especially, and they have the same kind of flavor, you know what I mean? And then for ones that I was a part of, I really enjoyed the Black Flag image. There were several pieces in the Incorruptible that I really liked, but the Black Flag was one of my favorites, and I think the Enter the Realm may be my new favorite after that Black. We did that, like, out of that whole album of all the ones we did, I think Black Flag was both Roy and I's favorite because of the different lighting effects. It had that lantern, and as an artist, that's like, art is all about light, and it's about the control of light, right? And so it had like the lightning that was creating light, and then it had that lantern that was creating light, so it had this like kind of dualistic light source. And you'll see us repeat that again on the Demons and Wizards redo, where you have like the one with like the blue lightning and the other one has the flame, and so it has like this dualistic kind of lighting to it. That's because we dig on doing that, and I give him difficult shit is what I do. And the longer we've worked, I know he can handle it, because not every color artist can handle dualistic lighting. It's really complicated to make it work and not flatten things or make things out of proportion and stuff. And so I give him good leads with my shading, to let him know kind of what I'm thinking. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you 2 directional light sources here. Have fun. And he's like, motherfucker. But he loves it. He likes the challenge. But he's like, motherfucker. But probably Black Flag and then Enter the Realm would probably be my new favorite. I think Enter the Realm's John's favorite of all the stuff that Roy and I have done together. And he said as much to me.
Right.
Yeah, I think he said that to us as well, that it's his favorite. I think his words were, this is his favorite image that has ever been associated with Iced Earth.
Well, that makes me feel good. That makes me feel real good.
That's a statement, that is.
Yeah. Because that's like 30 years.
That's a long time. Yeah. You did good, man.
I feel good about that.
Because
I'll hang my hat on that one.
Me and Chuck, we John was kind enough to send it to us early to have a look at, to like show it off, and we opened that email. We were both like, we're like, whoa, because I love that original drawing on the original cassette. I've always liked that drawing, but what that you just like taken that drawing and brought it into like the 21st century. It's just incredible.
That was the whole idea. He showed me that, and originally he was like, I don't know if we want to do something completely new, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. Let me redo this. Let me,
That's
I said, this concept isn't bad. It was just drawn by like your 19-year-old buddy or something. You know what I mean? It's not like a bad concept. It's totally like friggin' 80s tastic. You know what I mean? It's like, it reeks of old school metal, like garage metal. You know what I mean? Like where he was at. That's where he was at.
Are you trying to say it's not good, but going the long way around?
Man, I'll say it's nostalgic. That's what I'll say.
It's classic.
It's classic, and the concept was awesome. But obviously, like the smoke and stuff on it was like indistinguishable as what it was. There was like supposed to be that magic smoke, and it was kind of coming out of the chest, and it was kind of hard to tell on the original exactly what all that was, and so I think it's badass, because when I look at it, it makes me smile, right? And that's what you want out of art. You like want to look at something, you're like, this is friggin' awesome. But I wanted to take it and tune it up. He gave me, like, when we first started discussing, he was like, I don't know if we want to do this. We want to come up with a whole new concept. I was like, no. There's nothing wrong with this concept. The concept's cool. Let's stick with it. And he I think he was real happy about that. He's like, what can we do with this thing? And I was like, oh, we can do stuff. Yeah, it's just gonna take some shit.
Well,
that's awesome,
Dave. We can't thank you enough for spending time with us today and showing this other side of the music industry. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. If you guys ever want to talk more, man, get a hold of me, and we can schedule something. We'll get something that's actually like scheduled. So, because I'll try to carve out a different day.
So it'll be any time after April 2020.
Well, I usually take Sundays and Mondays off from the tattoo gig. That's the problem. 5 p.m. I'm usually tattooing. I start work at like noon, and so by 5 p.m. I'm usually still tattooing and stuff. And so you were wanting to do this right in the middle of like my work day, and so and then I have all this other projects and shit going. But I was glad I could carve out time.
It was worth the wait.
We appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
It's been cool.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Jason, take us home, buddy.
It was great talking to you guys, and great meeting y'all.
Yeah, you too, man.
I look forward to seeing your artwork. All right, I want you to send me some stuff.
I'll definitely send you stuff, man. It's the way you were talking just really opened my eyes and stuff. So it's inspirational, man.
Yeah, I love looking at stuff. I love looking at art, and I love critiquing, and I love I won't be too rough on you, but I'll be honest. So be prepared for that, right? I might tell you all about your baby, so be prepared.
It's all good, man. It's all good. I'm recording.
Awesome.
I'm recording drums with my band on the weekend. They're definitely going to tell me if I'm shit.
You're used to it.
I've been playing the songs to a click for 3 months. I'm trying to like make sure I've got it locked in. So my bandmates be like, "You're off here. That beat's off." They're going to be on me. So I can take it. It's all right. It's all good. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been podcasting Stone. I have been joined, as always, by the incomparable Chuck Hoskins. We have been joined, and it's been a delight. It's been a delight. We've been joined by the awesome Iced Earth artist, David Newman-Stump. David, thanks again for coming on, man.
Thank you guys.
It's been a good shame we couldn't have a bit longer, but you know, such is life. But yeah,
like I said, we can do it again. We can do it again.
Yeah, man, that'd be awesome. Continue to make awesome art, man. You're one talented dude.
Thanks.
Everybody, be sure to like, subscribe. If you think this episode is shit, comment down below. That's what they're for. I'm sure people will. But yeah, check us out on Facebook. Join the group. We've got a bunch of people that chat. From the band: Matt Barlow, Gene Adam, Bill Owen, Luke Appleton pops up from time to time. A bunch of people. Great place for Iced Earth fans to chat about the bands. Am I forgetting stuff? If you want to support the podcast, you can join us on Patreon for as low as $1. It all helps behind the scenes stuff, so that's always good. Until next time, stay metal because metal lives, my friends. See you later.